My name is John with Nutri-Link Technologies, and it's certainly been my pleasure, excuse me, to do the webinars with you guys this week. And certainly, throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot those over in the questions bar there. Certainly let me know if you have any questions. And as we have, we'll follow the same protocol today as we have the last couple of days. We will take those questions at the end and start answering those. One of the first things that I would like to do, I know the webinar today is for resolving issues in the in review, but one thing that I would like to cover first is, I know some of you guys will be going on summer break, and once you go on that break, I know some will be out for maybe a month, 2 months before they actually come back and start working in the software again. So in the process, not meaning anything bad this, but you may forget your password. But as you know, some people do. I mean, of course, while you're sitting on white sandy beaches at the ocean, you're not really worried about a password to NutriCloud. So when you come back, it's like, oh, I forgot my password. So you can simply reach out to us. We can shoot that to you, get that for you. But also, I know some people have had issues with resetting the password. So what I would like to do is just simply cover real quick about that. So if you are an admin and you have someone that needs a password reset, simply you would just go to the menu, the setup, and you can access that information by the user management there. So you'd simply click on that tab. And then once you have clicked on that tab, you would select the user in which that you would like to change that password on. And then once you get ready to do that, you'd simply click on the edit button there. And you would make that change here in the password section. Now, I do want to remind you that in changing the password, that there is a schematic for that. It has to be 8 digits long. It has to include an uppercase letter, a lowercase letter, as well as a number. So any match of those, as long as it contains those 4 requirements: uppercase letter, lowercase letter, number, and 8 digits long. And then once you make that change, you simply can click Save. And then also, I would like to show you a feature as well. Maybe some of you have found this already, but maybe some of you are new to the NutriCloud, and some of you may not know about this particular feature. But if you have a user in your district there or on your system that they forget their username and password, you simply can go over to the email button here, the little envelope underneath the action section, and once you click that, it'll come up. It'll say email a success, email sent successfully. So that user will receive that email with the link to the NutriCloud, as well as their username and password. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know, and certainly be able to cover that with you. But the webinar today, just a real quick overview. We're going to be going over resolving issues in the in review. So just real quickly, for those of you once again that may be new, this is our home screen. This is where you land once you sign in. And then from here, you just simply access the other tabs from this location. Notice up at the top, if you have scanning, there's the Scanned Apps tab, as well as the In Review. And then also the Application Lookup, the Student Matching, the Reports, the Submit Applications, and then, of course, we'll cover just a little bit on the Help button there in just a moment. So in the Application Processing section, we have the In Review, and that is where the applications will actually come in once they require attention to be processed. Now, as we're going to cover today, there can be multiple reasons as to why they are going to be coming into the in review. Now, when those applications are automatically downloaded to the system will attempt to match up those apps. If there are no issues that need attention on those applications, then they will be matched up and processed, and they will actually be setting in the process section, and that number will also reflect in the submit application, because the system does not automatically submit those apps for you. So we want those to stay in there until you submit them, because some of you guys have the NutriKids, and therefore you have to use the NutriKids scanning bridge. Some of you guys have the WebSmart, and you have to use the Easy Mill app tool to get those applications over into your free and reduced software. Now, I know we have PCS customers, they use the iTool, and then the Cafe Enterprise goes into the Mill applications and imports those in. And a very similar process for the One Source Horizon customers there as well. So with the Mosaic customers, you guys, once you click Submit Applications, you'll simply go in there, click on the meal application import, and it will import those applications in for you there. So with saying that, just a real quick overview here. We've received 9 applications today. If we had scanned any apps, those would be showing in this section, and then as well as any applications that may have been submitted today will be located here. Once again, the quick application lookup, you're able to look for students and apps in this section simply by just keying in the student ID or the student name there, or a combination of the ID and name, and then search, and that will actually search for that student for you there. Okay, so we're going to go into the in review at this time, and we're going to just cover resolving some of these issues in the in review. Now, I've keyed in these applications. I'm sure maybe some of you guys may have questions specifically pertaining to how do I process a foster app, or how do I process a DC app, or a case number app, or how do I process a special circumstance, which is the homeless migrant runaway. So if you notice over on the left side of the screen here in the application list, I keyed those applications in with the corresponding situation in which we're going to be addressing for that application there. So just, we'll go through these, and certainly, once again, I'd like to say, if you have any questions as we progress through the webinar today, please shoot those questions over to us, and we'll be glad to address those at the end of the webinar. So just another quick overview of the in review here. When the applications come in, they're automatically downloaded, so you don't have to find a download applications button. And also the student import is on an automated scheduler task, if I can get that out. It's on an automated scheduler task, which means that the student import runs automatically at a set time. So a couple things to remember there. If you're having an issue with matching up students, or you're not seeing students there, please be sure you let us know about that so that we may get logged in there and see. Sometimes when updates are completed on the machines in which the NutriCloud agent resides, sometimes it may stop that schedule task, and we just simply have to reset that. Probably in those situations like that, it would probably take maybe longer to actually get logged into the computer than to actually set that. So it's no big problem, no big issue at all. So just kind of keep that in mind as well as you get ready to start the new school year. And same as for the applications. If it's the start of the year and you should have already started receiving applications and you're not, certainly reach out to us. If you have any questions at all, I want you to know that you can reach out to the team. We'd certainly be glad to assist any way possible to ensure that the NutriCloud software runs as smoothly as possible for you there. So. But once the application is downloaded into the in review, as I mentioned before, the system will attempt to match up those students. Now, the application can be matched up to the correct student, but the application may not process out at that time. And the reason being is that there may be an issue on that application. And it's not really an issue per se, as far as saying what you may think an issue is. It's more or less just holding that application because we have told the software to do so, because maybe those applications need to be processed in a different type of way than just a regular app. So when the application is downloaded, once again, you notice it gives the app an app number, as well as a batch number, an image number, as well as the download date. You have a section to add or edit notes, And I want to stress this section um, quite a bit here, because if you make any type of changes to the application, and then maybe you come into a review year or you're going through an audit, and that auditor says, okay, I notice you've made a change here. Why did you make a change to the application? Well, if we access and utilize the add edit note there, that will help jog our memory as to why we made that specific change. So let me just really put that out there, because also we have a report where you can print just the notes on the applications there. So that's a very useful tool, and take advantage of it. It being on the system there, it helps, if if you know why you made a particular change. That it helps the auditor to understand as well. So also, we have a do not process section here, and what that is for is you have an application within the system that you do not desire to process. You can actually click the do not process section there. Then also, and we'll cover the do not process in a little bit more detail in just a moment. Also, you have the hide application button there. Um, as we have said before, the hide application button, what that is for, say that you're at the beginning of the year, you've already received applications. Maybe you're a week into the new year, or maybe you're a couple of days into the new school year, and your student information system has not updated yet. I know that's been a situation with some districts, that the student information system is maybe they've had to fix something there, or maybe they're having to get that rolled over and get it corrected or something. So it may be a couple of days before those students actually go out at the beginning of the year. Um, so in that particular situation, you can go ahead and begin to address the issues on these applications as long as you click save on there. So for instance, if you have like we're going to address in just a moment, suspicious income application, you can go ahead and make that correction to that application and click save. And then when the student information updates and sends out that new student import out to your system, then you can actually go in and run a student match on that by going to the student matching section, running either an automatic match or a manual match there. Now, the automatic match is without the user intervention, meaning that the system will go in there and, based upon the set criteria in this section, the system will attempt to match up those applications. And then the manual match, it requires, so you have to have user intervention there. So, and what takes place on a manual match is when you run that manual match, once again, based upon the selected criteria that you, the user, will select here. Once you run that match on that criteria, it's whenever it attempts to make a match, it's going to pop up and say, it's going to give you an option to click match or do not match there. So that's just a little bit of a difference between the automatic match and the manual match. The manual match is, a lot of people says, well, I don't think I'll find that useful. Actually, it is a very good tool in the instance that maybe you've got students that are maybe the same first name, last name, or maybe applications that you have to specifically look at before you actually match those. You can actually do that from within the manual match there. So going back into the in review, uh, we're going to take a look also searching applications. You can search apps in the application list simply by selecting or toggling which uh, search option you want to use there. You can do that by one of the search options, or if you click the more search options there, it will give you two boxes. So if you've got students with the same name, maybe you can look up that student with the student name, student ID, or the student name and maybe the last for the adult social or case number, guardian last name, application number there. So you can do a combination of those. Also, you can filter applications by exceptions. Now, once again, the exceptions are, if you notice, there's a list of those there, and the exceptions are simply the issues that are on the application. So basically, like on this particular application, it's saying, okay, there's one issue. We're holding this application for this issue. It needs your attention. So you would simply go in there and address that particular app and then begin to process that there. The filter by batch is just as it says, by the batch number. And once again, that batch number is listed on every application there, the school name, as well as filter by grade. You can show applications from today. You can show hidden applications. You can also show unlocked batches or flagged applications. So with that being said, we're simply going to go right on into resolving some of these issues today. And once again, you have those questions, just shoot those over, and we'll be glad to take those at the end there. So just send them when they come into your mind, and we can address those at the end there. All right, so addressing the first application here. So with the foster child application, so kind of give you the scenario. When we keyed in the application here, the application came in and the application matched the student. Everything was good on there. Everything was correct. The only situation was that it's showing as a foster child there. So I know, different districts have different policies in which they process applications, but from the actual NutriCloud to the free and reduced vendor, um, the only vendor that we have that will not allow us to send a multi-type application is the NutriKids um, POS vendor. So if you have NutriKids, what you would need to do there is you would need to actually take that application and put it into the NutriKids there, print it off here, then do a do not process. Now you can print this app by simply clicking the print application button down here. And then when you do the do not process, that's actually going to do, it's going to take that application out of the in review, and it's just going to place it in the application lookup, and it's not going to process that child, even though the child has been matched up to a student. It will not process that. Now, that is something we need to understand as well. Whenever a child has been matched up on an application and processed out to the free and reduced vendor software, which would be your NutriKids, Mosaic, WebSmart PCS, Cafe Enterprise, whenever that application has been processed and sent to that vendor via the submit button up here, that student will then have a grayed out background here. We know that this child has not been processed. A couple things. One, because the app has been held for the foster child issue. And the second is because the student has not been grayed out yet. So we can tell that that application has not been sent over. Now, for all the other vendors, you can actually process the foster child application as you would regularly. And what you would simply do is you would just click the ignore box up here, and then you would click save, and then it would process that application. Now, I know some districts, they want to verify, is this child an actual foster child? Say that you verify that this child is not a foster child. Now, you have to work on these applications based on your district policy. So if your district policy allows you to make changes to applications, then you simply could come over here and uncheck the foster box here. And what that would do is that will, once you uncheck that and click save, it will process this application out, and it will take the foster child issue off of the application there. So just a real quick cover over this again. NutriKids is the only vendor that you have to manually process the application over in the POS vendor. WebSmart, Mosaic, Lunchbox, Horizon One Source, Cafe Enterprise, those vendors you can actually process the application manually. Or I'm sorry, you can process that application by simply clicking the ignore box up here and then clicking save. And once we do that, if you notice it says that the success application has been processed successfully, this application is ready for submission. So once that application has been saved and submitted, or saved and or processed rather, when you click save, it processes it. The difference between the process and submitted is actually that when the application is processed, that means that you have corrected any issues on that application. You've clicked saved and it's waiting to be submitted. So that's what process is. Submission is when you actually click the submit application button to send it over to your free and reduced vendor. So the second application that we're going to look at today is a special circumstances application. Now, this falls under the categories of homeless, migrant, and runaway. The institutionalized, I believe, and emancipated there as well. So the special circumstances application, what you need to do on these particular applications is follow your district policy. And that may sound like a broad answer there, but we are finding that more and more districts that they will have a homeless migrant runaway, the HMR liaison on the district site there, and they will actually verify, is this child homeless, migrant, runaway, and if the child is, what we have seen in the past is that a lot of times that they'll not want to process that application, don't want to receive that application in, because I believe the way that they receive those is that they are actually on a list. They come into the district on a list. So, and if it were to be the case that you do not have the district liaison there, then of course follow your district policy on how to process that application. Now, if your district says, okay, yeah, we can just process this application regularly, then you would put a check mark in the ignore box and click save there. I know there are districts that they want to verify, is the child homeless, migrant, or runaway, and then they will attempt to process that application following that after they make that determination. So that's how to handle the special circumstances applications there. And for purposes of training, we're going to actually just leave this application in here. So we'll just minimize that. Now we're going to get into the second one that we find here, and that is the student income. How do we address student income applications? So basically all you're doing is you're just verifying the application that it has the student income listed on it there. Um, there are some districts that they would say I would actually call the parent and verify that before I process the app, and then some say no, that's how the parent keyed it in, that's how we're going to take it. And once again, I refer back to your district policy simply because of in this particular instance, I have seen districts that they say we are not allowed to change applications. So there's no need to verify that, and they simply process it through based on the face value of the application. So with saying that, they would simply ignore the student income, and then they would process the application on through. And you may say, well, I see two sections highlighted in the bold red text with the alert triangle, but there's only an issue. And the reason for that is because the student information lists the student as well as the income on that student, and then the income is also listed in the student income section here. Now that does not, let me stress this, that does not apply that child's income 2 times to the application. It only does that once. So what it actually does is it will only one time include the 235 biweekly on that application. But it's listed in two sections, one because it's actually been keyed in on this particular child, and two because it is income, and we want to keep the household income together. So that's the reason why that you see it in both the student information section as well as the household income. Now, for purposes of training, I'm just going to manipulate the application here for just a moment to show you once you put a check mark in the student income. So I'm saving the application here with a number mismatch, and then I'm just going to show you here what it looks like. So when you put a check mark in the student income there and you click save, notice it says enter multiple issues still remain with the application. We'll simply click OK. So now if you notice the student income there, the student information section is no longer bold, as well as bolded in red text, and as well as the student income section and income frequency are not highlighted in red. We're showing the total members mismatch simply because I did that for us to take a look at the application there. So with that, we will go back to this. And if you notice now, when we change back to the correct number of household members, that it says success, application has been processed successfully. This application is ready for submission. So we'd simply click OK, and that application has been processed out. Now, if you note, there are two application settings in submit application section there. Okay. So the next error that we're going to take a look at is, excuse me, applications that have duplicate income on those. And that is a setting in which we actually set in the process settings for your district. So some districts, they want that on simply because just in case maybe there was a misunderstanding when the parent or guardian was keying the application, and they can find that duplicate income. Now, you guys having processed applications before, you know your district, and you kind of know the parameters of the issues in which your users have when it comes to keying in the information there. Uh, some users, they'll list the income twice on there, or even three times. We have seen that parents list the income on the student and list it twice, once on both parents there. So once again, income. If there's, if the dad works and you've got the child and the mother in the household, we all know that you simply just key in the income one time on that particular household member. So, but with the duplicate income, all that's basically letting you know there is that on this particular application, we find that there's duplicate income. And so there are some districts that they would verify that, and they would go through that and make sure that the parent or guardian did keep that information in there correctly. And so to process that application out, you would simply just put a check mark in the ignore box, and then you would click save there. And once you click save, notice it gives us once again the success screen. The application has been processed successfully. This application is ready for submission. Now, let me just remind you once again, anytime you make any type of changes to the application, be sure that you add a note there. And all you simply do is just click add edit note, and we can actually key in a note there. And then once you key that in, then you can click on the close button, and it will add a note to the system there. And we'll do that once we come over to the suspicious income section here. Okay, so moving right on with the issues here, we're going to cover two issues on this particular application. One being the student not found, and the second thing being the zero income. So with looking at that, we see there's a first name, middle initial, last name, birth date, grade, and so there's been no income entered in on the student, as well as no income entered in on the household income section. So that's the two issues. So to match up a student, we simply will click the green icon, the green search icon here in the center. We'll click on that, and that will get us over to the student lookup. And when we come into the student lookup, if the fields are entered correctly, now this information at the top of the screen is what comes from your actual online application. The information that's listed below the gray bar here, starting with the tangerine colored bar and down, that's actually from your student information system. So if the information is keyed in correctly at the top, then the higher, the more fields that are keyed in correctly at the top, the higher the score set. And I actually think this may answer one of the questions asking about what is the score reference on the student matching tab. What that is actually referencing is this section here. So when we look at this application, we actually see that on this particular application, we're seeing that the information was keyed in correctly there. And so we see the first name, the middle initial, the last name, the school number, grade, birth date, and address. So let me just caution you here as well that the way that the system comes up with this actual scoring set is it's based on the number of characters that are correctly matched in each field here. So if, say for instance, maybe your district may have a high Hispanic population, and they may use the hyphenated last name, as we have seen in times past. And so if that child, if the parent or guardian keys that child in on the application with a hyphenated last name, but in your actual student information system, it does not have the hyphenation, that can affect the matching of your child. Most likely it will, because on the last name it's looking for an exact match on there, as well as the first name. So it's looking to try to match up character space for character space on those fields there. So when it looks and it sees, okay, yeah, there's something here that isn't here in this section, then it's not going to match that application. So there's a couple of reasons as to why that application may not match up. I'm sure, as some of you are aware, that a parent or guardian can key in an application, and maybe they get the grade off by one, or maybe they get the birth date off by one day, or even by 1 year. It's easy to do when you're typing, on a keyboard. It's easy to type in the wrong date there. Or also, it looks at the address, so it could be possible that the family has moved from the location that is listed in the student information system, and so it looks at that as well. So this scoring set is actually based on the actual matching of the application here. Now, if you're finding in your automatic matches, or when applications are downloaded, that they are not matching up when they should be matching up, please give us a call, so we can take a look at that score set. That is something that we actually have to set for you guys, but there's a way that we can go in there and we can look at that, and we can set that score set. We typically like to have for you to have 10 or 15 applications in your in review, because we feel that gives us a good pooling of your applications there, and that would allow us to make the changes that are significant for the matching. Now, with saying that, the reason why that we are the ones that set that is because with the score set, if this score set was set too low, it would actually just match up on that score set. So if we set in your system say we set 920, it's possible that it could match up to this child here. So the higher the score setting on the left here, the better, or the higher the probability of a match there. So just wanted to cover that with you. So in this particular student's situation, the student is not matched up, and I did that on purpose just so that we could see about matching up students. Now, one other thing I'd like to cover in this particular portion is that you guys have worked with your districts. You're familiar with the families. You're familiar with the household. So say that we had two Abigail McIntoshes in the system here. And maybe Abigail McIntosh in your school district, and so you want to just make sure that you're matching up the correct one. You can actually look at the show image here, and that will actually pull up an image of the application for you to take a look at that, to maybe help you better match up that application there. So in this particular instance, if there was not a match on this particular application here, we would simply click Do Not Match or Cancel. But since we have a match here, we're simply going to click the Match button. Now, if you notice, it has put a student ID number on this particular child, and so that lets me know that the child has been matched up, but the application has not been processed yet. Now, if you're new to the NutriCloud software, be sure that whenever you match up the student, that you reach right down here at the bottom and you click the Save button, and click the Save button there. And once you click the Save button, it will actually match up that child, the application. So now we see that there is no issues showing student not found, as well as the student number, and the student name is not in that red highlighted text. Now, for example, it doesn't have a highlighted box like it's showing here for the zero income. So the application, the second issue that we had on the application was the zero income. Well, we fixed the first one. Now we have to address the second issue on the application, and that is the zero income. Now, as I was keying in the applications this morning onto the system, there's several prompts on the online application that alerts the parents or guardians and says, suspicious income, or you're reporting zero income. So it alerts the parents as to the special circumstances or the issues that will cause an application to be held up there. The USDA does not require that the applicant key in the income information onto the application. So, we can't force them to do that. We do want them to key that information in, but they can send in an application showing zero income. And there are some situations in which the households do not have income, and so they report that as so. And so, with saying that, once again, you'd have to address the situation per your district policy. So if your policy would be to contact and verify this, then this would be the time in which you would actually contact the parent and verify it. If your district policy is we don't verify, we simply process it at face value, then you would simply go ahead and process this application on out. So to process this app, and just to show you the section here, notice it's got all of the income sections highlighted, and that's just showing us that there are no incomes listed on those household members, as well as on the up here. So if we were going to process this application out, we would simply click, put a check mark in the ignore box, and then we would click save. And notice it says success, the application has been processed successfully. So it's ready to be submitted. So that's just one thing there to take a look at. Also on this application, we're going to address the same situation with the student not found, but the second issue being the suspicious income. So once again, that is set by the process settings there. If your district is in a affluent section there, and maybe you guys get parents that their income is more than, I think, $120,000 a year. If you need that to be raised, we can actually raise that up. So just be sure to let us know about that. But the suspicious income has met the requirement to be held in the in review. And so we're going to just click on the income section there, or click on the suspicious income. We can hover right over that and go right to that issue. So in clicking on that, it highlights all of the income that's being keyed into the system. Well, we know that $400 weekly, that's very possible. We look down and we see, oh, okay, wait a minute, mom's making $1 million a month. So like I generally tell folks, this is when we're going to call the mother up and first say, the job you're doing, is it legal? And secondly, is there any openings, right? So then, of course, mom's going to say, oh, no, that's not right. That's supposed to be $1,000 a month. Little Johnny was tugging at my arm while I was keying in the application. Now, if your district policy allows you to make a change, you can simply click into that section there and delete out those zeros. And then when you click save here, notice what it will actually do. It lets us know there are still issues with the app, and there is, and that's being that the student not found. But if you notice now, the income hasn't changed to the correct amount. Now, one thing to note is that we need to add a note on this application. So we can just simply click the add note button, and we'll say parent verified. She created a typo. App income is to be $1,000 per month. There. So we can click add, and when we click add on that note, you know who added the note and when they added that note on there. Now, while you still have the note open in this particular screen, you can edit that. If you realize, oh, well, wait a minute, I need to add something to that, you can click the edit button and add to that. And then once you realize, okay, that's all I want to put on that note, you simply click close. Now, if you notice now, the add edit note section up there is showing one, as well as the note column in the application list is showing the note icon there. So that lets us know that we have made a note on this application. So say, for instance, we're back to the situation, your student information system has not been updated yet. You're waiting for those students to come in. Maybe you've called parents and you're waiting for callbacks. You can actually just click up here, add a note, called parent or guardian to verify income, or called parent or guardian to verify data or whatever. And when you click add on that, or when you click close, and it adds that note, that will let you know which applications that you have already touched and which ones that you have already tried to reach out to that parent or guardian on there. So the income has been corrected on this application. Now, something I want to show you here as well is that previously in the NutriCloud software, when the applications were downloaded, they were hard coded, so you could not make any changes to the actual image. Now, if you can reach down here at the bottom and simply click refresh image, and what that will do, if you notice now, it updated the actual household information there to show the correct what we verified. And then I know some may be asking, well, what if we need to view the original for the auditor? Well, you simply can look at the view original, and it will have that on as well. Now, the view original is also available in the application lookup. You can find that there as well. So we'll go ahead and match up Bruce Ethan here. Once again, we're just following the regular matching protocol. We're just going to click the matching icon, and then when we come in here, we're going to find the correct student, and then we're going to match that student if the student is in here. So we look at the application here, and oh, well, the student is not in the system, so we can actually leave that. We can leave that application untouched or unmatched rather. So we can simply click cancel, or we can click do not match there. So we know that we're waiting on that child to come into the student information system there. Now, moving on to the next application, we're going to look at the sibling of a DC. How do we handle these particular applications here? Um, the the best way to extend the DCs on the students is by just extending those DCs in your free and reduced software. That's the best way to do it. Most of the now, and I say this like this because I know that districts do not want to process um, DC applications, even though you have let the parent know, hey, you don't have to process an application. Your child's a DC and will be receiving free meals this school year. Sometimes you have those parents that do go on in there and they'll key in that application on that student that's a DC. And then you may have some that has a DC child and some that maybe one of the children's a DC and the other is not, as you see in this particular situation here. So what my suggestion would be for processing the DC and sibling of DC students would be to actually click on the Do Not Process button, as we had mentioned before, and then you can select all. And let me just make a quick note here. Okay, because I would like to show you something on this particular app. So we're going to choose to not process this application. And let me say this before we click the OK as well. If you were to process this application, um, I know with NutriKids, and I believe so with the WebSmart, but I'm not for sure with the other vendors at this particular time. But if you were to process this application and you're a NutriKids POS vendor, or you're using the NutriKids POS vendor, most likely that application will be held up in the NutriKids scanning bridge. So it'll throw you an error there, and it will let you know that the application cannot be added because it's a DC there. So, but we're going to go ahead and do a do not process. So we're going to click OK. And it says, are you sure you'd like to remove the students? Now, what that is saying, don't think that is removing the students from the app. It's just removing the students from the process section there, or the processing portion of the app. So what it's actually saying is we're not going to process this student, and we say yes. So it says students deleted successfully. Now what that means is that the students has been deleted from the actual processing section of the application there. Now we'll take a look at that in just a moment. Now, and it's the exact same situation if you get a application and you have DC students on there, uh, and maybe that's the only child on the application. You'll follow through with the same process, do not process, and then you would select the student, or when you click a do not process on this particular instance, it's just going straight to, hey, you'd like to remove the student, and you would say yes if that child was a DC. Now, the total members mismatch, what this is referring to is that it's saying, oh, we see a child, and then we see two household members. So that needs to be changed to 3. And then you would click save on that. When it processes that, notice now that the total members mismatch has been taken off, and now we're looking at only the student not found there. So which we have actually, the system has matched up the child. Let me say that the student has actually been matched up, but with the way that the application has been addressed here, it's not actually processed the application, so the student has not gone through on that. So what we could simply do in this particular case, we could just say do not process, and we could say yes on that there. And that would remove the application out of the in review there. The next step that we're going to take a look at is the case number applications. Uh, Now, with the case number applications, that once again, I'm going to refer back to your district policy on this, because those students could possibly be on the DC list or could be late coming in on the DC list. So you want to refer back to your district policy and say that this child isn't, for some reason, on the DC list at this particular time. What you would do is, and the reason why we say verify here is it's basically letting you know, hey, this application has a case number. Now, I had a question the other day. It said, so we can actually verify the case number with the state. We cannot do that simply because we don't have a connection to the state database. That would be the only way that you could actually verify that. But what we can actually do is, if you know that, say for instance, your case numbers for your state, say that your case numbers are 7 digits long and they're alphanumeric, meaning they can contain letters and numbers. You can just get us that information, and we can set that in the processing settings so that whenever a parent or guardian keys in an application, if they key in a case number app, then it will have to meet the requirements in which you give us, which is the schematic of your state's case number. Say that your state's case number is, say, 8 to 9 digits, so it can be 8 or 9 digits, and it's alphanumeric. We can actually set that for that as well. So, and I know we had a question previously about, we actually use the EDG number and not the case number or something like that. We can actually make the change of that verbiage on there for you as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. So basically what it's doing is just letting you know there's a case number on this application. So what do you want to do? You want to process it or do not process it? Once again, follow your district policy on this. So in this particular instance, I'm going to say okay. I realize there's a case number there, but they're not a special circumstance. So I'm actually going to save that app and process it on out. So the app has been saved and processed, not submitted yet. And then one of the last things that I want to cover here is looking at the scanning applications. I know some of you guys use the scanning software, and how do you address the situations with the scanning of the applications? If you're addressing that in the in review section here, it's exactly the same way as we have with the online apps. If you're addressing it in the verified data section there, you would simply address those errors as they are highlighted within the actual verified data section there. So for purposes of keeping it uniform, let's look at this here. You can say, oh, 12 issues on this application. Well, not really. It's letting us know that there's a previous application on these 3 students already. So you see previous application. I know some district policies is we don't process the second app. Some is we do process the second application. So whatever your district policy is there, that's how you address the app. And then also it says missing income frequency. What in the world is missing income frequency? Well, if we hover over that issue and we click on that, it'll take us to the income. Notice it takes us to this one first, and then we can go right on down to the income here. Now notice that those 2 sections are highlighted, bolded red text with the alert triangle. And if you notice, where is the frequency missing? It's actually missing on the first one here. So what could have happened was that the parent or guardian, maybe they might not have made that mark dark enough on the application, or maybe they might not have made the mark on there at all. Maybe they were in a hurry filling it out and just forgot to put it on there. So first thing you can do is look at the actual application and say, oh, okay, yeah, that's supposed to be weekly. So what you can do is you can say, okay, that's supposed to be weekly. Or if you look and you see that it's missed, of course, if your policy is to verify, you would call the parent and verify that information. So it's just looking here, letting us know, okay, I need to check a few things on this app. Now, if you notice, we've got 4 students on this app, or 3 students, and a child that is not a student, if you notice that section here. And then we've got 2 parents. So we see 4 children and 2 parents. It gives us a household of 6. For some odd reason, the way the scanning read it in as 10. So we can actually change that to, oh, I guess I need to hit the backspace twice there. So we need to change that to 6. And then we can go ahead and click save on that application, and you can see some of those issues disappear there. Notice it's letting us know that there's still some issues on this app. Now notice with what we did, we corrected the majority of those. Okay, now, so what we're looking at here is it says sent to review by user. Now what this means, that means that while you were maybe data verifying that application in the actual verified data screen, you may have chosen to send that by checking that or clicking that button, send to review. That's the reason why it has that issue there, because it's kind of a reminder, okay, you sent this to the review. Well, you need to check why you were sending it here. So we verify that, and then we notice that there is student income listed on the app. Here we see that, and it will say student income on 3 there, so don't be alarmed by that. It's just letting you know that the student sections that it is showing the income, and then also the previous application exists. So if your district policy is to actually process all applications, then you can say, okay, yep, I see there's a previous application. I'm going to go ahead and process this anyway. Now you can actually click on the previous app exists there, and it will let you see the 3 students in which has the previous app, and in doing so, it will give you a side-by-side view of those applications, so you can view, okay, what difference? Was there an income change, a household number change, etc.? So with saying that, you can actually look at the application, and in this particular instance, maybe that application slid out of the stack when you first scanned some batches through, and so now it's been scanned back in maybe it's been found thinking, maybe this application needs to be scanned again. So we can, okay, yep. And then, we verified the income. Now, the low confidence fields, what that is saying, that's actually just saying on this particular image, we have looked at this field and we are confident within a certain degree that this field is correct. So that's what that is doing. You will always see that on there, just kind of as a reminder to check those fields, make sure they are correct there, because we are talking about skin here with the applications. Once again, you cannot make a child DC or take a DC status off. So we will go ahead and process this app. Application been processed successfully. Application ready for submission. So now we're going to go into the submission section and get ready to take some questions there. So we're going to submit the apps by clicking the Submit 6 applications. is simply let know that the submit application export format is the Horizon 1 source. Yours may say NutriKids, WebSmart, Mosaic, etc. So we'll just simply click Submit Applications. 6 apps were submitted. Now let me remind you here, be sure that once you submit those applications, that you go over and run the tool in which pushes those apps over to your free and reduced vendor. Now, if you're NutriKids, once again, that's the scanning bridge. If you're WebSmart, that's the Easy Meal app. If you're PCS, that's the iTool. For the Cafe Enterprise, OneSource, and the Mosaic software, you will actually go into the software and then import those applications in. So that's just a little bit of information there. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the questions here for just a moment and be right back in a second. We'll answer some of these questions for you guys. Okay, so we have some great questions. I know we're limited on time here, but I'm going to try to address each of these. Those of you that were asking specific questions there as far as not pertaining necessarily to processing of apps, we will follow up with those. I just want to let you know we're not overlooking you, but those are things that we'll speak directly to you with. So the first question that we are going to address is it better to have the guardian or parent to resubmit the application if there are errors on it rather than making the changes? That's simply up to you. If your district policy allows you to make changes, just be sure, once again, if it's a change that will affect the outcome of the application as far as being free, reduced, or denied, you want to make sure you make a note on that application. But once again, that will be totally up to you. So you can, if you want the parent to do that, you can just contact them and say, hey, you need to resubmit this and correct these errors on it. But that's, once again, totally up to you. We've covered the scoring that's reference to the student matching. We've covered that already, but if you would like more information on that, I certainly can speak to you about that. And then if you have a foster and put do not process, um, you can manually put it in the NutriKids. Will it stay in the NutriCloud or will it go away? It will actually stay, and that was the reason that I wanted to write down this child's name here, because if you remember, we had a student that we removed from the application. Now, if you notice that in the application lookup, we can reference back to these apps by simply searching for student ID, student name, confirmation number, app number, batch number, eligibility status, app status, or filter by school there. And then when you search for that child, it will bring up the information that will look like this. So you can actually look. If you notice, we did a do not process. That's what the status removed means. It means the do not process means removed. So we did it on this particular application. This would be an app that you would need to extend the benefits of this child over to this one in your free and reduced software. And if you notice as well, along with ID, first, last name, birthday, grade, school, date received, the date exported, if the app would have been submitted, that's what date exported there means, the app submitted, gives you a copy of the last image. Now this section here, you can see that the child is a DC and the sibling is not. is this app in verification. So just to let you know, to answer your question there, yeah, you can actually pull that back up in the system there, and you can actually go in and view the detail on that application by clicking the detail drop down and clicking view details there. And then once you go into the app, and also let me make a reference to this as well. This child being in the DC, I think this will answer probably the next question that we had was where in the SAS will the NutriCloud find the DC status? So whenever the student information system sends the student info over to us, that child, there's a DC flag on that child, and that will actually alert us that that child is a DC. So the student information system sends that child, and then when we attempt to match it, lets us know it's a DC. But what if that child comes over into the system and they were not a DC yet, but then they were made a DC after the fact? How does that deal with the application? Well, the student import runs automatically, as we spoke before, and it runs on a regular basis there. So some of you guys, it's on a daily basis. Some it's maybe every 3-4 hours there. So when the next student import runs, if that child is a DC in your SIS, that child's going to be a DC in the NutriCloud. Now, for instance, say that a child was made in the SIS, made a DC that was not supposed to be, and that comes over, it will alert us when we try to match that app. But then at the same time, when that is corrected and that comes back through, it will let us know that that child is not a DC as well. So just a little bit of information here. This is the child student ID confirmation number on the app, and as well as you can restore the app. Maybe you removed the student by accident. You can restore the app back into the in review and process that again. And also you have a tab to click on the actual eligibility status email that was sent out to that particular parent there. If you have our NutriStatus software, as well as we can view any emails on this child, any siblings on this child, any comments, and then of course actual history here. So I think that takes care of a couple of the questions there. Okay, so we will reach out to those that had specific questions there. So we'll reach out to you via email or phone conversation to cover those with you. But that will conclude the training for today on the resolving issues in the review. If you have any other questions or anything, feel free to reach out to us. Know that you will be receiving a copy of the webinar today, as well as, let me show you one last thing here on the help section and support resources. There's a wealth of knowledge here as far as there's the NutriCloud help as well as some videos, tutorials on how to process apps, and specifically speaking about importing applications into your free and reduced vendor. There is videos listed there. And if for some reason you're with a vendor that's not listed, please let us know that, and we'll get you some documentation for that, as well as introduction to the NutriCloud and some daily tasks there. Also, let me mention there is some marketing materials. Those of you that may send out a mass flyer or a mass email out to the parents, you can actually download that flyer there and customize it for your particular district. So this does conclude the webinar for today. Certainly, if you have any other questions or need any further assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd be certainly more than glad to assist you in any way possible. So we hope that each person has a blessed day. And once again, if there's anything that we can assist with, please let us know. Thank you.